In an absolutely incredible battle across two of the most coveted teams in the entirety of the world stage, we got to see T1 and JDG display an absolutely beautiful showing of what the highest level of League of Legends play could look like. Not only that, but this was also a showcase of dynamic drafting and how teams take maximum advantage of an environment like the draft so that they can experiment and play around with different styles of play so that they can better attack their enemies. We'll be covering how the drafts evolve as we hop from game to game, as I think this is key to understanding how T1 managed to get a grip on and absolutely dissect JDG in the end. As always, if you enjoy content like this, feel free to drop a sub to support the channel. Let's hop in the draft. We'll take little bits and pieces of each draft so that we can kind of understand what takeaways T1 got as we go. A very common theme here was T1's consistent and relentless priority for the Lucian combo, in which they'd be willing to give up pretty much anything in order to secure this pick. This starts in game 1, of course, as you can see T1 have the control to basically choose the shape of the draft in the first phase. T1 are banning out things that JDG can take in the R1, R2, as well as actually openers that they don't want to have to commit to, which explains the Aatrox ban. You see, although this champion literally has 100% pick ban presence in the entire world stage, T1 simply don't see themselves succeeding in that style of play, or just simply don't feel like it's worth it for them to be forced into an Aatrox opener when they could just take the Lucian Nami instead. This results in the dynamic of it being traded for the Aphelios Lulu this series. This ended up being a really good thing for T1 in my opinion, because it basically ensured a constant within the JDG team composition, and allowed them to tech drafts that lets them abuse this consistency. The key thing here is in phase 2, where they first tried a full forward comp into the Lulu, which ended up not panning out, since Aphelios Lulu already does a good job of preventing dive, and JDG managed to get a good counter pick here as well. This ends up forcing them into playing a very one-dimensional draft, and actually gives JDG a very good idea as to how they want to play these fights. T1 surely have a lot of early game oomph, but JDG individually can force certain skirmishes to allow themselves to play fights on their teams and stall out for the Aphelios Lulu combo to become unkillable. This is eventually what resulted in a very high bar of execution for them, which then translated into difficulty being able to play out this game in general. T1 try again in game 2, picking blue side once more and opening out the same trade of the Lucian Nami, but they come into this game understanding that that style didn't work. So in this case, they end up with a comp that has a little more flexibility and a little less required committal so that they don't have to put themselves in that situation again. This draft came off the back of an adaptation in the bans to remove the Viego pick for JDG this time, and then subsequently allowing them to have Sylas so that T1 could actually pick Ryze, and then eventually Yone, playing for strong side lanes. Aphelios Lulu's identity to a team composition here is effectively just strong front-to-back team fighting and stalling out the early game until you hit that point. By having winning matchups in both solo lanes and a composition that has macro as flexible as the one T1 has here, they open themselves up to really spread this JDG composition thin and not put themselves in a situation where they have to deal with JDG's comp S5. This is why we see the Yone blind here as well, as they basically revealed in R4 that they need a tank on top side. Yone matches well into pretty much every tank in the game, so it's technically an illegal blind, but one that T1 identified the timing for. We kind of saw this being hinted as well in the phase 2 bans, as JDG removed Fiora and Lee Sin, while T1 removed Renekton to ensure that they couldn't cheat their way into a winning topside. So at this point, T1 have a better idea with their comps here, and this is their first time on red side this series in game 3. This means that they have some pretty mandatory bans for the most part in the form of Graves, Aatrox, and Yuumi, meaning that Viego must be given up to JDG this game, as opposed to being able to just ban it like they did in game 2. JDG miraculously don't ban out the Lucian Nami combo, which is telling me that JDG are also down to play out this matchup. T1's main options in the first phase here are to either reveal Lucian Nami here right away in R1, R2 and hide one pick for R3, or they can take a power pick here and sacrifice that potential counter. They opt to just pick the pair outright, as we see absolutely nothing special come from JDG here, as we see a mimic from game 1. T1 actually go for a Ryze again, meaning that T1 is confident in both the matchup spread and the gameplay flow that it's bringing to this series. T1 learned a bit from last time in game 1 as well, banning out high impact mid laners that can prevent Lucian Nami from thriving here. JDG on the other hand banned out Lee Sin again, as well as Jace, which hints a bit as to the top lane pick they want to swing for. In this game, T1 actually snagged Nocturne as the R4, which is a forward pick that is not what I was expecting, but very good to force your way onto an engage similar to Vi, because it can get passes here, which is the most common pairing for this duo lane on bot side for JDG. I didn't honestly think that the Nocturne pick would work that well here, but I honestly think that the identity of it is so that it can match well into Viego and actually be used as a vision denial tool for specific situations and cause chaos around the map. JDG round out with Renekton here and T1 R5 GP to counter this game. Again, solid lanes to allow T1 to play through this Lucian Nami lane, but this time with a more forward jungle again to kind of just facilitate. I don't think Owner's role in the Nocturne is to really go in, as it is just to create opportunities for T1 in the early mid. Based on the fights that ensued, it ended up actually playing out pretty well for them somehow, so we'll take it. Now onto game 4. Finally, JDG catch on a bit as to how things have not been working with the current flow of the drafts, so they actually make a good move by banning out both Lucian and Rise to force T1 onto a different style of draft. Sejuani's been banned out on blue side for the entirety of this series so far, and with T1 on red once more, JDG pretty much put themselves in the position to be won it with these bans in mind. Something tells me though that Scrim Information has also put Maokai off the radar as well in these games. The way T1 swiftly pivot their drafting style and plan this game just immediately shows to me, even as a spectator, the amount of prep that went into this game. Lucian's banned? Alright, now we get to show our Varus opener in this game. This is a champ that's been pretty cursed throughout a lot of worlds, mainly thanks to NA failing with it so much, but has a similar lack of counterplay and laning phase to a champion like Lucian. They also took the Viego since that prio pick has been handed to them for once, and JDG responded in kind with Bel'Veth, as well as Karma, which has been used to curb Varus in lane pretty commonly. I think most players end up speccing Karma's build incorrectly though, and ironically, I believe Keria is the player with the best sense of it here, going first strike on his Karma page to translate his lane dominance into an actual lead. T1 are pretty much taking note out of JDG's book here by swinging Azir and R3, and in phase 2, T1 know what JDG can use to succeed, so they continue to ban out Delia since there's no need for a Galio ban. Ashe is also a strong counter here into Varus, so that goes out the window too. Fiora and Tahm Kench are the bans here for JDG, clearing the way for Sejuani top to stabilize and preventing the Varus from being too safe. T1 complete their backwards comp here with Renata Gragas, but unlike T1, JDG don't end up drafting anything that can actually either dive into the T1 comp or potentially siege it, which are the two methods to counter here. So basically, T1 took the comp style that JDG was playing, mastered it themselves, and then JDG fumbled themselves out of any options to counter it because they were so caught up in bans from previous games. T1 pretty much broke the ankles of JDG's coaching staff here because throughout this series you can kind of just see countless examples of T1's rock solid methodology for drafting, especially against what JDG want to do in their games. I hope this helps break down the games and does justice into how much depth goes into the drafts at this level as well. As always, hope this was insightful to you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay fresh.
Don't you think